Hey, what's up, people? Welcome back. Today I'll be checking out the race debate between Sneako, Abba, Jidion, Young Don, and Nick Fuentes. I'm not too familiar with the folks I'm listening to, with the exception of Nick Fuentes. Just a little background on Nick Fuentes for those of you who are not familiar with his work, which there's no way for me to know how familiar you are with it, although I think it's important to just name before we start the video, because oftentimes what could happen when these people are given a platform is that their image could actually be repaired. For those of you who don't know, Nick Fuentes essentially led the infamous Stop the Steal movement, which relied on misinformation to falsely claim that Trump actually won the election in 2020, right? So he's big on conspiracy theories. He's also claimed that citizens should be able to kill Democratic legislators that he labels globalists. Now, what are globalists according to Nick? So there's like this conspiracy theory that's been floating around since the mid 20th century that there are a tiny group of Jews who control the world and are conspiring to destroy it. This is the same language that Hitler used to justify the extermination of over 3 million Jews in Europe, and Nick clings to that tradition. What else can I say about Nick? Besides the fact that he's a Holocaust denier and doesn't believe that climate change is real. He's also been known to get involved in crypto schemes, rug pulls, whereby he sells his audience on the new coin that he knows is not sustainable and does not have the potential to produce considerable income. And then once his audience has invested in it, as is the case with most crypto schemes, they end up losing all of their money. And who comes out as the winner? Of course, Nick Fuentes. So in my best estimation, he does not meet the criteria in terms of what goes into making a decent human being. And the reason I'm not saying good is because, quite frankly, I don't think most people are good. I think it's hard to be good in this world, but being decent is what we should all strive towards. But that's just my own personal opinion. Now, for all I know, y'all probably already have this information and you know about Nick Fuentes, but what I think makes him especially dangerous is the fact that he is in the process of rehabilitating his image and cartoonifying himself to come off as this dork who has quirky opinions, when in all reality he has a pretty large following. He maintains loads of political connections, especially on the extreme right side of the aisle, and he's called for violence on multiple occasions, not only against political leaders that he disagrees with, but also racial and ethnic minorities. And I'm not saying violence in terms of bullying people on Twitter. What I mean is physical violence, right? So I just wanted to be transparent and upfront with what my stance on Nick is. Now, I'm not too familiar with the others. I've seen a few videos from Abba and Preach, and I saw the episode that featured Destiny and the girl's name, crazy girl, Anna, in that whole debacle, which blew my mind. From what I remember, Destiny seems very intelligent, but doesn't always seem to be the best judge of character. So I'm curious as to how this debate will unravel.
My new friend Nick Fuentes, he's streaming. I don't know if you're streaming right now.
Oh my God!
Right.
Oh no!
Hey, this stream is
These guys are gonna get steamrolled.
Wait,
Holy Jesus!
So is Destiny in the debate or is he watching the debate? I'm confused.
I don't know him. I've just seen him on Destiny stream a few times, and so
Because he just said, oh no, these guys are going to get steamrolled. And I'm assuming when he says these guys, he's talking about the guy in the upper right hand corner and Abba, since Sneako, which is I think the guy on the bottom left hand side, has already claimed that he's friends with Nick. So I'm guessing this is a 2-on-2 debate, but we'll have to wait and see.
Oh man!
Yo, Brody, I don't know if this is true or not, but Sneako said you're like a borderline Nazi.
Borderline?
He's not a borderline Nazi, and I wouldn't even call him a Nazi, to be quite honest. I would say that he does check all of the boxes for what constitutes a neo-Nazi.
that's what people say.
That's what people say. He's not actually.
Okay, he's not a neo-Nazi, but he spends a great deal of his time romanticizing Adolf Hitler.
Oh shit!
I'm not gonna lie, he's one of the funniest political commentators.
Let's go.
It surprises me that Abba would say something like that. I don't know where that's coming from. I don't know if he's trying to be charitable in his assessment of Nick, but Nick is not a comedian, right? He's a fringe political pundit who advocates for segregation, discrimination, and the exclusion of minority groups in society.
Oh,
I want to give him that. He made me laugh properly during a few streams. So I'm gonna give him credit. Like he doesn't take himself too serious.
This is my first time hearing about you, man. But I'm ready to hear what you got to say, bro.
Hey,
I'm
Jidion,
open-minded.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good look for ABBA to be openly endorsing Nick Fuentes. Either he hasn't done his research or he's trying to pander to Nick's audience. Either way, this just goes to show that people should be more careful with who they interact with on the grounds in which they interact with them and how much research they do before they interact with them in a public setting, because I could see how ABBA cozying up to Nick can actually damage his brand if he's not careful.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, Jidion, don't worry. One day you're gonna end up in an article, Jidion, they'll be like, he was on a podcast with Nick Fuentes.
You'll get canceled for this in the future. I'm sorry. You'll get canceled for this in the future. It's my bad. You could give me, article writers, BuzzFeed, and La Sanabi, give me the smoke for that, bro. It's my fault that I brought.
But then again, I mean, ABBA's comedy has always struck me as immature and shallow, so I guess it shouldn't surprise me that he finds someone like Nick to be funny. I wonder how funny he finds his beliefs in phrenology and craniometry, which is the pseudoscientific study of race differences, right? The idea that black skulls are structured differently than white skulls, and that these distinguishing characteristics link to intelligence, which ultimately makes white people more intelligent than black people. This is what Nick Fuentes believes, and I'd be curious to know if ABBA finds that part of his presentation funny. The fact that Nick essentially believes he's talking to three imbeciles that are intellectually inferior to him.
Nick on.
I'm just figuring it out, man. I was in the hey, I'm here for it, bro.
Yeah, it's going to be controversial.
Nick, what do you think? We were talking about, I just asked Abba what do you think the biggest problem in the world is, and he said inflation. Nick, what do you think the biggest problem in the world is?
Lack of Christianity.
Biggest problem in the world right now.
It's got to be lack of God.
Probably.
So before Nick even answers, I get the feeling that I know exactly where he's going. He's going to say something about the Jews. He's going to say that the corporate elite are putting out misinformation to control the masses and confuse them and distract them from the truth. And who has the truth? Who is the final arbiter of the truth? According to Nick Fuentes, Nick Fuentes. So we'll see where he goes with this, but something tells me he's going to go in that direction.
The media.
Really?
Okay, the media and the
As a
US
Christian
national security
nationalist?
apparatus.
Oh,
It's gotta
man.
be number one.
How do we fix
Inflation's
that?
how do we fix that? We gotta change the people that are running the media and change the people running the national security state.
He's so predictable. These are all dog whistles. He's talking about Jewish people.
Inflation's a big problem, but inflation's obviously it's a symptom of a problem. Inflation is a product of the Federal Reserve, I'm sure, as you know.
Inflation is a product of a whole host of variables, not just the Federal Reserve. That is an oversimplification of how the economy works, but please continue.
Yeah, I saw you, Sneako, actually watching a documentary about that. And the Federal Reserve is part of the regime. You know, the regime is not just the government. The regime it's like probably 1,000 to 10,000 people that run all the institutions that control America. And America...
This is textbook Nick Fuentes. He could do this in his sleep. He's basically recycling conspiracy theories that are peddled by neo-Nazis. Right, so when he talks about the regime, basically what he's referring to is Jews. But I think it's interesting that he's identifying the media, the banks, government, and big tech as the bad guys, while conveniently leaving out what those bad guys all have in common, which is that the overwhelming majority of them are white. Not necessarily Jewish, but white. Of course, he would leave that part out because by acknowledging it, he would be undermining his entire philosophy, which is that only white people are capable of running society to make it efficient and harmonious. And another side note, I just find it interesting that he speaks about how the media is the biggest problem and that he's concerned about misinformation when in fact he is one of the biggest peddlers of misinformation on the extreme right, but I digress.
is the empire that runs the world. So it's not just like the president and the government, it's big tech, it's the media, it's the Federal Reserve, it's the banks, it's Wall Street, it's the whole deal.
You know, it was something about the banks. Shit, I don't know. This might be a little controversial, but I'm gonna say it. I don't watch the debates or nothing, but I was watching the presidential debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, and I had always heard people talk about the worldwide banking system. It was like this big thing. They were like the worldwide banking system, the worldwide banking system. That's how.
Hey, you're gonna join them? If he invites me, I will. Damn.
So is this guy Jidion getting ready to co-sign the Jewish conspiracy theory, or where are we going with this? Where is he going with this?
I don't know how to get. I can't just jump into a random call.
I never really saw.
So Destiny is not involved in the debate. That makes sense. That's why he's talking about it as like third person or a spectator.
Evidence to support it, but and you can look this up for yourself, guys. I was watching.
Okay, he just said I have no evidence to support it. Usually, whatever comes after a claim like that is something you can just cast away immediately. That's not a very good way to start off a sentence.
Debate live, chilling, sitting down, and during the debate, Joe Biden was talking about something, and then Donald Trump interrupted him. Like, you guys remember how Donald Trump kept on interrupting him, right? And then Joe snapped. He got pissed. He was like, he said, that's why you're gonna lose. And Donald Trump was like, why, Joe? Why am I gonna lose? Because I'm against you. The Democratic Party's against you. The media's against you. Then he said, the worldwide banking system. And then he said that, and he like put his head down.
Oh my God.
And it was quiet for a good...
Oh my God, conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory. So this is another common conspiracy theory among fucking lunatics, which is the reptilian theory, the idea that politicians and people in power are not human, that they are reptilians, that they are aliens from a different planet who were sent to Earth to destroy us all.
Oh man, what are we doing here?
It was so weird because the whole time they were just yelling over each other, and it was just quiet. It was just quiet, nothing. And then
I think I've identified the biggest fucking idiot in this group. I think Fuentes is the most pathetic. Abba seems like a people pleaser who is trying to grow and consolidate his audience, even if that means associating with deplorable figures such as Nick Fuentes. I don't know too much about Sneako, but he doesn't strike me as a very genuine human being based on his line of questioning and the way in which he has interjected in these first few minutes. But that is a big reach because I don't know shit about Sneako, so I should hold off on making comments like that. And I think Destiny seems to be the most complex of the three, the most interesting to me at least.
They just went into another topic. So I don't know what the worldwide banking system is, but I had like, when he said it and the way they got quiet, I was just like, what the fuck just happened? And then I saw no one talk about it, but yeah.
Bro, yeah, no, if you look into the IMF and the World Bank and their practices all over the world, that's a big part of how they're able to control world government. And the shadow banking system...
What's a big part of how they're able to control world governments, and how are you building off the point that this man just made? He's using his platform as a launching point to just deliver talking points. That's exactly what Nick is doing, and that's what he's good for. So if we want to talk about the IMF and the World Bank, yeah, the IMF and World Bank are rich white enterprises that are the direct offshoots of colonialism. They sell poor, predominantly black and brown countries high interest loans while exploiting them for their natural resources. So what'll happen is the leaders of the IMF and World Bank will go and negotiate with corrupt politicians in very poor countries, and they'll strike deals with them, which is to say, we'll pump your country full of loans, which a big chunk of it will probably go to you instead of the actual people on the ground. But we'll just say that it goes towards developmental projects like building infrastructure and building the healthcare system. And in return, just open up your economies to us. Just open up your economies to corporate exploitation, and let us use all of your land and natural resources to harvest rubber, to harvest iron, to harvest cobalt that goes into our smartphones. But what's interesting is that you can literally Google the boards of these organizations. Sure, they might have 1 or 2 Jewish people on them, but so fucking what? Some people on the board are Irish. Some of them are Italian. Some of them are Swedish. Some of them are American. But Nick has like a really kind of slimy way of framing the issue to make it sound like Jews are in control of everything, because as we know, it's really easy to just scapegoat an entire group for all the world's problems. That's what the manosphere is, right? The reason why I can't get asked, the reason why I'm 40 years old and can't find a woman to make my wife is because Western women are too focused on their careers. Western women have lost every trait of their femininity. Western women have blah, 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 blah. It's all blame this person, blame that person, and don't take any accountability for our actions, which is an interesting contradiction, right? Because they often blame lefties for not taking accountability for their life's outcomes. I don't know. If you're watching, try not to go down those rabbit holes, because fuck, it's hard to get back out.
Too, that's something I've been looking into a lot lately. If you look at like the former British colonies in like the Caribbean, they run the shadow banking system, which is the nexus between the intelligence agencies.
When you say they, be very clear and concise, Nick. You're referring to wealthy, white, post-colonial enterprises that are controlled not by Jewish people. These are not Jewish companies, right? These are international businesses ran by people from across the world.
The United States and organized crime around the world. That's how they're able to funnel money from the U.S. government to like organized crime,
He's
to
right
the
about
cartels, to all kinds of shady things, terrorism that goes on in the world. That's a huge part.
He's right about that, but the issue is he's fucking mixing too many lies and truths together, right? So if you're not expert on these topics or you haven't read about them extensively, it becomes difficult to decipher what part of his message is pure fucking just alt-right bullshit and what part of it is actually valid. And it's a conscious tactic that he's using. It's a very good way to get people to believe bullshit when you mix a little bit of the truth with a little bit of a lie.
Part of the problem globally is shadow banking.
And who's behind it?
Well, we talked about it, Sneako. A lot of Jews. A lot of Jews. I don't know how.
That's exactly, yeah, I don't know the mocking, the Jewish music. I don't know why Sneako felt the need to do that. And there goes Abba laughing. These dudes just have an immature sense of humor. By the way, please like or comment on this video so that I can know that my content is worth putting out. Because if I don't see a lot of traffic or traction, then that's going to lead me to conclude that my services aren't really needed, and that you can find them in another content creator that does it just as good, if not better than me. And if that's the case, that's completely fine. I'm still experimenting with this channel, but if you are taking something away from the video and you do want to see me more frequently, just throw a comment in the comment section. I'll put out a part 1, and if I get a few comments and if I get decent views, I'll put out a part 2 to my reaction of this debate.
I know you guys feel about that, but it's true.
This is like 13-year-old humor.
I'm not even gonna lie to you. I'm so out of my depth. I don't even know any Jewish people, so this is a tough one for me.
He knows Dan.
But you haven't done a deep dive into conspiracy theories?
I saw my first Jewish person in the UK.
Nah. That's the first time you met a Jew?
A Jewish person that like had like the black coat.
That was good
and everything. Like I was in London and I ran into one at the airport and I said shalom and he said shalom back.
Mazel.
I said Shabbat shalom. He said Shabbat shalom.
Hold up. I gotta ask you this, Nick, because I don't know much about.
Oh, don't ask him. He's gonna have an answer.
Since you've been doing all this online shit, how's that worked out well for you?
Yeah, I think Jidion and Abba are outside of their depth. Nick Fuentes is not someone you could just go in cold into a debate with. I wouldn't say he's someone that you have to prepare for, but you have to know that he does not debate in good faith, and that he spent way more time coming up with these conspiracy theories than you have coming up with ways to debunk them.
Oh, jeez.
Well, I don't really have a dating life.
Okay. I thought I was going to ask some conspiracy shit.
I identify as sort of like an incel.
No!
Okay. Let's get it. This is where the content's at. Let's get some money. All right. So how is it that you're so well versed in all this stuff?
That's interesting. This is where the content's at. Let's get some money. It's interesting that Abba would say that.
You're charismatic. You got some good jokes. No homo. But you ain't getting no bitches.
Well, you see, I'm married to this life because unlike you guys, here's the thing. If I was...
Part of the reason you're married to this life is because you've burnt so many professional bridges and you've built your personality on a foundation of lies and half-truths. You use your platform to spread hate and division, and now you're in the process of repairing your reputation to come off as more palatable to a mainstream audience.
Going out there and I was, maybe not you guys necessarily, but if I was going out there and I was doing the usual thing, if I was like, hey, everybody, like low taxes and, and Trump is great and Biden sucks and this and that, I would probably be like a mainstream person. But the thing is, I'm like totally ostracized from the system.
Nick, you are the system. The reason you're banned from whatever platforms you're banned from is because you are a liability and have actively encouraged your audience to engage in physical violence. It has nothing to do with you possessing some sort of truth that people are afraid will catch like wildfire and spread. You're fucking up people's money and ad revenue, and you're scaring advertisers away. It's literally that simple.
Bad. I'm hanging out. Listen, if he invites me, I'll invite me.
How are you
Okay.
banned from an airline?
Yeah.
Who are you? Wait.
It's because he's a suspected domestic terrorist. Why haven't these guys done their research? I mean, maybe I should be more charitable because, I don't know, I'm not in their position, but you can't just go into a conversation with somebody like this blind.
What the fuck did you do to get banned from an airline?
The shit he talks about.
Yeah, I was put on the federal no-fly list for a year by the government. And then I got off the no-fly list, and then I got banned from Delta and American
I don't understand why it was so funny.
Airlines. And so now I can only fly United. That's the only one I
Me and Abba were talking. Okay?
Terrorists? Terrorists on a no.
I don't know.
You got to do your homework, bro. You would have been able to answer that question had you done your homework.
What the fuck are you doing?
I don't know. I just tell the truth. I talk about what's going on. I get in a lot of trouble. So I'm banned from all that. I'm banned from Bank of America. I'm banned from U.S. Bank, Chase Bank.
It's from a bank.
Yeah, I don't know. Ask him about his shady financial dealings. Ask him about his involvement in money laundering and crypto scams.
I'm banned from U.S. Bank, Chase Bank.
It's from a bank.
They send you a letter and they say, hey, we closed your personal checking account. You can't bank with us anymore. No,
you're a walking.
Yeah, he wants people to see him as a victim. Poor me, Nick Fuentes. I don't do anything to anyone. People just find ways to single me out.
you can't bank with us anymore. No.
You're a walking supervillain.
I know. I think I'm a superhero, actually. You don't know the
See,
truth.
and that's the thing that makes him dangerous, is that he's so witty and charming. If you're not careful, and if, I don't know, you're easily swept off your feet by people with charming personalities, it's hard not to fall for a guy like this.
No, I think I'm a superhero, actually. You don't know the truth.
All right, so you got to tell us. So you're ostracized from so many things. Come on, there's got to be some women out here just like, man, I fucking hate the world banking system too. Like, yo, Nick, let's talk about this. There's got to be women hitting you up. Don't lie.
There are, Nick.
It's true, but they're all crazy. They're all the women that watch my show have just got to be insane.
Hey, Nick.
That should tell you something about your show and what in the content that you're putting out.
Let me put you on a game. Crazy pussy hits different. I know they're gonna ruin your clothes, they're gonna burn stuff, but crazy pussy, come on, Abba.
Yeah, I don't know how old this dude is, but he sounds like a 16-year-old who doesn't have a lot of dating experience. To say that crazy pussy hits different is a really stupid thing to say. No, crazy pussy does not hit different. Let's not fetishize people's mental health issues.
Tell him.
Yeah, man. There's no reason for you to be alone in this world. You got this, bro. And I think you make some good
there are
content.
plenty of
You make
reasons.
content that people can really enjoy and really connect with. So there's no reason that some of your female fans.
Yeah, and this is what's rubbing me the wrong way about ABBA. It seems like he's outside of his depth and he doesn't know Nick Fuentes very well. Just based on that line, it seems that you make content that people can really enjoy and connect with. Either he doesn't know shit or he's pandering. Those are the only two explanations I have for why he would say something like that.
Shouldn't be dateable and sensible in the head, man.
Yo, Jidion's so confused right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna find one
I'm
of
still
these
trying to
days.
figure out about this Bank of America situation. Like,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
But you go ahead. So go ahead, Jidion.
My bad. What's your name, bro?
Me?
Yeah,
I'm Nick Fuentes.
Nick Fuentes. So what are your ideals? Like you have to, I guess you have to have some pretty out there ideals.
Yeah, what are those ideals,
so,
Nick Fuentes?
Ostracized.
What
as
you got
say.
going on out?
So it appears as if Destiny knows Nick's grift, just based on that comment alone.
The out there ideals.
Yeah, what are those ideals,
so,
Nick Fuentes?
Ostracized.
What
as
you got
say.
going on out there?
Yeah,
For the people in me that don't know.
I suppose. I mean, I identify as a paleo conservative, which is that's like the lamest thing I guess you could call it. I'm a reactionary. Basically, I believe that everything that has happened in the past 300 years is a mistake. Is to summarize it nicely. I think.
Really? How about slavery, Nick? You think slavery is a mistake? What about Jim Crow? At the end of the day, his beliefs are largely incoherent and inconsistent with one another. If I were to ask him those questions, chances are he would either find a way to obfuscate or he would say, no, those two things weren't a mistake. And then I would say, well, why weren't they a mistake, Nick? And then that would open up the door for him to provide his warped moral justifications for those two institutions, which would thereby expose him as a racist, which he absolutely is.
Feminism is the worst thing that ever happened to Western
Shitting me.
civilization.
Please, I'm
against
smiley
that.
face.
I'm against mass immigration. I'm against modernism, liberalism. I'm Catholic.
Were you against the mass immigration of your Italian and Mexican ancestors who came here within the past 100 years? Another question that I'd imagine Nick would stumble over.
And that sort of forms a foundation of my view, like theocracy or like a Catholic monarchy or something like that. That's sort of my disposition to summarize it.
How do you feel about interracial marriages?
See, if you know Nick's background and if you know who he is and what his talking points are, it's very easy to make him look silly. But if you don't, you're going to be a fish out of water.
I'm against it.
Ah, there you go.
What did he say?
Yeah.
How do you feel about interracial marriages?
I'm against it.
Doesn't surprise
there
me.
you go.
Yeah.
What about you, Jidion? Do you believe in mixed love?
Mixed love, man. Love is love, bro. I love my snow bunnies. I love my
really-
Latino.
Jidion.
Love my Asian girls. Nick Fuentes, man. I'm coming
He's taking ownership over these women that he's talking about. It's an unfortunate thing when people of color start using like white people's tools and tactics to perpetuate, weird racial fetishism, right? Like snow bunnies and shit like that. Like that shit is just that shit is just I don't know, but that's my opinion. That's just my opinion, right? Because that's what they did with your ancestors. They said, "Ooh, look at these exotic women. Oh my God, like they're sex machines. We could just use them." So I don't know why he's doing that.
Nick Fuentes, man. I'm coming for Nick.
I gotta ask, Nick, how do
still
you feel
young,
when you
Nick.
see a black guy just getting with the snow bunnies? Like, is that something that like rustles your jimmies?
She's
Is
gonna
that
get
something
BBC'd, Nick. Your
not
white
with?
girl's gonna get BBC'd.
Oh, bro, why are you doing that, bro? Why are you using those stereotypes to like reinscribe black men as hypersexual deviants that chase after white women? Like, bro, you don't have to do all that in order to like make him uncomfortable. He's already uncomfortable. He's uncomfortable with the idea of interracial relationships, with the idea of diversity. You don't have to do all that.
The problem is all these white girls always end up getting their ass kicked.
Oh my God.
Here we
That's
go.
what typically happens.
Holy
Now the
shit.
real racist is coming out.
Oh
Now the real
no.
racism is coming out. Go ahead, Nick.
By who?
Talk your shit.
black
Expose
boyfriend.
yourself.
Black, yeah.
Okay. What's wrong?
So you trying to say we out here beating these white women? Is that what you trying to say?
No. That's not what he's trying to say, Abba. That's exactly what he's saying. That's exactly what he's saying. And it's interesting that he calls himself a Catholic, right? So Nick Fuentes is a Catholic in the same way that I'm a fucking Labrador. And the last time I checked, the core tenets of Catholicism were: 1, God is universal in that he loves everyone. 2, Jesus Christ came to save all the people in the world. 3, not formally belonging to the Catholic Church is a sin. And 4, no one who lives a sinful life can make it into heaven. And when you're someone like Nick, whose love is not universal, and your message is predicated on excluding people and leaving them out, and you're over here fucking people out of money, it's just hard for me to believe that you're not a sinful motherfucker. How are you going to be a Catholic when the foundation of your message is inherently discriminatory and divisive? How are you going to be a Catholic when you do not distribute your love equally amongst all of God's children? How are you going to be a Catholic when your life is full of deceit?
Way too mask off. Oh no.
You guys.
Nigga, this is your friend.
I just met him on stream. But Jidion, one thing I'm gonna say, you're reading.
Yeah, this streamer shit is full of a bunch of weirdos. Bro just said at the beginning of the shit that he's his best friend, and now he's saying, "Oh, I just met him. What kind of shit?
I just met him on stream.
I just met him off stream.
But Jidion, one thing I'm gonna say, you're reading the Malcolm X book right now. You know who else was against interracial marriages?
Malcolm X.
Malcolm X.
Yeah.
So he's saying the same thing on the other side.
Wait, where did that come from? It almost sounds like Sneako stepped in to save Nick from being held accountable for the racist shit that he just said by contriving some sort of whataboutism. But what about the book you're reading on Malcolm X? Listen, Malcolm X taught people how to respect themselves and where they come from. He didn't teach people how to disrespect others and look down on them because of the color of their skin. Yeah, he had critiques of whiteness and of white folks and of white culture, but he didn't believe that there was something biologically inherent about white people that made them less than any other race, especially towards the end of his life when he fully converted to Islam and he took his trip to Mecca and he saw Muslims from around the world, different skin colors, different ethnicities. You know, he realized that there was power in diversity, that there's power in multiculturalism. And he admitted, look, there were certain things I said about white folks at the beginning of my career that was wrong. I'm still against white supremacy and racism. I still think we need to be highly suspicious of institutions that are controlled by white people, but I don't believe that white people are devils. I believe that they got devilish behavior, you know? But something tells me this Sneako guy, he's not very good at nuance or reading between the lines or contextualizing the thoughts that run through his mind.
That's not the point that I'm worried. The fact is that he's blaming all black guys for beating white girls.
No, he's saying they're very likely to. You know what I mean? They might just be like, yo,
What the fuck is the difference?
oh, what the fuck is this chicken? You didn't season it properly, and they whoop their ass. That's what he's trying to say. He's not saying all of us do. He's saying a lot of us do.
Jidion, I don't agree with what he's saying, but
Good attempt at a joke, Abba.
at the same time, I think it's the equivalent of when black people say that white people shoot up schools. It's the same type of stereotype. So I like Nick's racism. I like that he can be honest and as racist as black people can be
Motherfucker, I like that. You could be honest.
racist.
This is the first time I've ever heard someone say that black people beat white girlfriends. Like, I've never heard this before, ever.
No, it's a harmful stereotype that reinscribes black men as physically violent and intimidating. It's the same kind of stereotypes that allowed for the lynching of black men during Jim Crow. You lie and say that a black guy raped your sister, and then boom, get to hang him on a tree. No trial, no jury, no due process, pure violence. And it starts with stereotypes like that.
That's the traditional. That's what white people. That's what white people.
His girl was black. His girl's not even white.
What they do? Well, I guess black, white. That's it's something that happens. I covered a story about this on my show a couple weeks ago. But
Well, I'm sure you did.
that's
I'm
not
sure
the
you
only thing.
did.
Here's the thing. I'm halfway kidding about that. The thing is, and I was
Halfway.
explaining this to Sneako,
Halfway.
is what?
halfway.
Halfway. Here you go. The thing is I value my identity, and I also have a view of sexuality that I'm Catholic, so I think that people should get married before they have sex, and they should have sex to have kids. And so I want to meet a wife and I want to marry her and have kids. And I want my wife and I want my kids to reflect my identity. And that's something that's important to me. My heritage is important to me. My identity is important to me.
Wait, that's fine. That's completely fine. It's okay that you want your wife and kids to reflect your identity, and I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. But dude, they didn't ask about...
What's your heritage? What's your identity?
But dude, they didn't ask about whether you prefer to be in an interracial relationship. They asked about whether you are in favor of interracial relationships on a societal level. Now, they might ask them, but I don't know.
Heritage is important to me. My identity is important to me.
Wait, what's your heritage? What's your identity?
I'm half Italian, I'm a quarter Irish, and I'm a quarter Mexican.
So which quarter, are you going to meet somebody who's like identically that, or just like a half Italian is good enough?
No, not necessarily, but
That's
preferably someone who's Italian, preferably someone who's just white and Catholic.
Just white.
Someone who's going to look like me.
Close
and
enough.
Generally, I don't think it needs to get too precise, but obviously, if I married a black woman who's just white and Catholic,
Just white.
someone who's going to look like me.
Close
and
enough.
Generally, I don't think it needs to get too precise, but obviously, if I married a black girl and I had like a black kid, it's like, I'm not black, so, and I would look at my son and not really be able to identify in that way.
Okay, fair enough. So based on that logic, would you not want to have a daughter either because you can't identify with her on the basis of gender? What if your imaginary wife gives birth to a baby with a developmental disability? Would you not want to be his father because you feel like you can't relate to him because he has a developmental disability? What if your kid turned out to be gay and you couldn't relate to him on that level? What if they decide that they're not going to be Catholic? Would you not want to be their father because you can't identify with them on the basis of spirituality? And y'all keep this in mind. As long as you continue to go through life restricting who you are willing to love based on how they look, you're going to have a very miserable existence.
Oh, it's the fanatic argument.
I want to ask you a question. Do you identify more with your religious side or your racial side?
Race wins out with this motherfucker 24/7.
Do you identify more with your religious side or your racial side?
Probably. Well, I think the thing is about people's identities is that people's identities are complex. So it's not so much to say, oh, well, I'm more Catholic than I am white. I mean, I'm both. I'm Catholic and I'm white. But to me, Catholicism, that's a foundation of my worldview.
Okay, so if you met a black woman who was a Catholic, or an Irish or an Italian woman who was like Buddhist, which one, if you had to pick between the two, which one would you marry?
Careful, Nick. Careful, Nick. So if Nick truly believes the shit that he preaches, if his beliefs are truly as consistent as he thinks they are, he won't answer this question because both dilemmas would be equally unbearable. Now, if he does give an answer, then it just goes to show he's just a race reductionist. Everything for him is just about race. He's not as religious or spiritually engaged as he claims to be. He just knows that claiming to be religious, especially as a social media influencer, involved in right-wing rhetoric, is a way to go if you want to attract a large audience. But in practice, he's not really that religious. So if I had to guess, well, I don't want to guess. I want to see what he says.
Well, I would marry neither. But if I had to marry one, that's a tricky question. I don't know.
Come on. You just said your religion's more foundational. Come on,
don't answer. Don't answer.
But here's the thing. I mean, that's true. And as a Catholic, I should say the Catholic, but
Ooh.
I want to have a kid with green eyes like me. I want to have a kid with my white face. I don't want to have a kid.
Well, you're Mexican. You have Mexican in you.
Okay, but I have brown hair. I have white skin.
That's what we were looking for.
Well, you know how many light-skinned Mexican people I know?
Yeah. Okay. Well, point being is I want to marry someone that looks like me. That's a very human thing.
But is it that you want someone you made that looks like you?
That's how you know his beliefs. It's all aesthetics with him. It's all surface level. There's not a whole lot of substance to his arguments. Good on Abba. It seems like he's entering debate mode. That was a great question.
Or is the ideal person you want to be with is white because you're not fully white?
White people want to be with somebody that looks like their sister, low key. They always get together. Like if you look at most white couples, they kind of look like siblings.
Jesus
That was a
Christ.
good one by Sneako.
Look, that's an example of black people doing what white people do. When white people say all black people look the same, some black people say all white people look the same. Oh shit, he texted me. Why the fuck would he text me?
So this is my thing, right? You say that your religious side is foundational to you. You're a soldier of Jesus. You're ready to bang for the cross, whatever. But then you telling me you gonna choose somebody over the skin color over religion?
Why does he?
I start to question your
He
priorities.
DMs me on like
because
5
that's
different
what you were saying
platforms.
before.
He'll be like on Twitter, Discord,
Like
my
I
phone.
said,
Why?
I wouldn't
Let me use
marry
the rest of my pick. Hold
either.
on.
If forced to pick, it would be a difficult question because you're right. Like as a Catholic, I should say probably, I would marry the Catholic black woman.
Just say it. Come on, bro. Just say it. Say you getting with the black woman who shares your cultural and religious values.
Bro,
You want him to be somebody he's not, Abba. You want him to be morally consistent. You want him to make sense. Racism, by definition, is largely incoherent, unstructured, and irrational. So what you're asking for is not something that he can provide because it would go against his brand. It would be a death sentence for him to answer that question the way you want it to be answered.
come on, get that black juice.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I just want you to raise children that are also soldiers of God. That's the most important thing in this
She's a God-fearing black bro. No one loves God more than the black woman. My grandma loved God. My mama loved God. There's a black queen in the future is gonna love God. Get you a black queen, bro.
here's the
BLM in the chat.
Here's the thing.
This motherfucker Sneako has no valuable contributions to make. I haven't heard an insightful thing from him like in the last 16 minutes.
I cut a lot of black. I said this on my show. I'm attracted to Asian girls or black girls or things like that. But it's about my priority is trying to create a family. And the thing is, like, it's true that I have ideals and
trying to build a family. Nick, you weren't equipped to build a family. Nothing about you says family man, right? You're a dork and your message appeals to edgy 15-year-old white boys whose brains are not fully developed.
religion, but also I have an identity as a flesh and blood person. And this is the problem, in my opinion, with society, that we want to make everything about ideas and everything is about this, our constructed identities.
Yeah, and you want to make everything about race and you want to reduce it to genetics, two things that are incomparable.
And like when we talk about America, we say America is an idea and it's about, you know, what are your cultural beliefs? What's your culture? And all of that matters. But we also are at the same time human beings, and we're real physical people in the world with like a definite physical characteristics and definite genetic characteristics, and those things actually matter too, as we're finding.
This motherfucker's a snake.
And so, you know, yeah, does my religion matter to me? Yeah, more than anything. But also,
in effect, you just said that race matters to you more than religion.
I'm a man, and I am a white man, or I'm a Italian, Mexican,
so you're
Irish
more white
man,
than Catholic. You're more white than Catholic.
Exactly.
You're more white than Catholic.
Well, I'm both. That's the thing. Both of those things are part of it.
Can you educate Jidion on? Jidion keeps saying WBLM.
But one is more important to you than the other.
Is a scam. Can you tell him about that? Because I'm getting sick of him yelling WBLM. Yo, Jidion, that's some bot shit that you got to stop saying. BLM is a fucking scam.
I don't think
BLM is a scam. Okay. It's like someone saying the sky is green. Like, where the fuck do you even start with something like that? I guess my follow-up question would be, can you explain to me how it's a scam?
You see, you're so surface level. Like, I didn't even agree with the protest, bro. Me personally,
so
I feel like,
WBLM?
bro, wait, shut up, bro. I'm just saying that. But me personally, I feel like the Black Lives Matter protests were the biggest wasted opportunity in Black American history, because out of any time in American history, when you galvanize that many people, you can make the biggest change.
So why are you saying WBLM?
Oh, shut up. Let me finish.
Yo, let him talk, bro. This motherfucker, he's quick to cut people off, but you notice he doesn't really cut Nick off.
What I'm saying is, I feel like throughout those protests, I think the only bill that was ratified was like a George Floyd bill that to this day, Joe Biden has yet to sign. But there's been an Asian Lives Matter bill after the fact that has been signed. And I feel like there's been an LGBTQ bill that has been signed after.
And I feel like there's been an LGBTQ bill that has been signed. Motherfucker, either there was or there wasn't. Your feelings don't determine whether or not a bill was created. Yeah, this dude, I don't know. Oh my God, 5 million subscribers.
Fact. So I feel like the George Floyd protest was the most wasted opportunity in Black American history.
Okay.
Wow. Where do we start? You know, After the protest, Ferguson elected its first black mayor in the city's history. The mayor of Los Angeles slashed police funding. The same thing happened in New York. In Michigan, they instituted mandatory bias training for police officers, as was the case in different parts of the country. No-knock warrants were banned in St. Louis. New diversity, equity, and inclusion job positions spiked all over the country after the protests, which opened up tens of thousands of jobs. People mobilized in historically record-setting numbers to grieve, celebrate, and bond with each other. I mean, to say that the protests of 2019 were the biggest missed opportunity in African-American history, whatever he said, one, the jury's still out on that. Two, it's just such a it's an odd statement to make.
So why
We could have changed so much.
So why are you saying WBLM?
A lot did change.
Like you said.
You just weren't reading about it, and that's okay. That's okay. Let's just be honest, though. Let's be honest about how informed we are.
Gotta keep the chat lit, man. You know how to galvanize the people, man. Like,
Okay,
bro.
so you're just hyping it up.
Yeah.
Okay,
He's being provocative.
Don't hype up my chat with that fucking scam. Do you know where all the money for BLM went?
Well, my nigga, I'm not stupid, bro. No, I feel like you like.
Ready to go, Sneako. I would push him on that. No, I don't know where it went. Where'd it go? Because last time I checked, a lot of money went towards bailing people out when they were arrested for protesting and paying for their court proceedings. That shit is not cheap. So where do you think it went? I'd call this bluff.
If you think I'm just some like liberal, like like.
But instead, this dude is flailing all over the place and caving because Sneako is someone that, you know, he presents himself as confident and like domineering, and I don't buy it.
Yeah, sometimes. After Pokemon, I can't even lie to you. Yo, Nick, can you tell them about the bell curve? Can you tell them what you said to me? That was the first time I ever heard a white dude say that.
All right, the bell curve. He's basically he's gonna go into the shit that I was just talking about, which is that different races have different levels of intelligence based on their genetic features, and he's gonna use outdated scientific models that were around before we had a polio vaccine and there were airplanes in the sky. And that just goes to show that Nick is not necessarily a scientific thinker, he's just an ideologue. But the point he really wants to make is not that white people are smarter than everyone else. The point he wants to make is that white people are smarter than everyone else, and therefore they should be in charge of our political, social, and economic structures. Not only that, but I anticipate he will use IQ to rationalize and justify soaring levels of inequality between races of people.
What do you think about the IQ thing? This is gonna fucking shake it up.
Oh god.
Yeah, you guys aren't gonna like this, but I just want to preface this by saying this, okay?
It's not a matter of liking it. It's a matter of being honest about the scientific evidence and not leaning on science that was derived 200 years ago and has been pushed out by new science to make your point. That's what it's about, bro. So if we want to look at the IQ test, for example, it is one out of thousands of measurements for intelligence. And by no means is it the best one. Most psychometricians, most statisticians, most of the world's leading scholars in the behavioral and social sciences would agree that the IQ test is essentially outdated, which is why it's kind of annoying that you hear it brought up so often. But it's also understandable that you hear it brought up so often in the context of race realism, because who created the IQ test? Race realists, people who believed at their core that black people were inferior to white people. And so they took that assumption and created science to back it up. And that's not how you're supposed to do science. It's supposed to be the other way around. Now, you'll also notice that Nick will not bring up the Stanford-Binet intelligence test or the differential abilities intelligence test or Howard Gardner's multiple intelligence test, which says that it's actually not a great idea to view intelligence in a vacuum, right? Because there's just so many different ways to measure intelligence and different kinds of intelligences. But since Nick is a race reductionist and he likes going to like one particular source for all of his answers, and that source just so happens to reinforce his entire fucked up view of the world, of course, he's not going to talk about any of that. He's going to tell you exactly what I said he would tell you. Watch.
I love black people, okay? I love Hispanics.
It's just, I'm smarter than all of them.
This is going. Whenever this starts off like that, you know where it's going.
You know where it's going, okay?
I don't know why Sneako is getting so excited to hear his friend tell him that he thinks he's inferior to him. Because last time I checked, Sneako does not look white.
We call this race realism, okay, which is to say that race is real.
Race realism has as much science to back it up as astrology. It is crystals for white supremacists.
It's not fake, it's not skin deep, race is real. There are different races and there's meaningful differences. And one of the things is that on average, the races have different IQs. On average, blacks have the lowest IQ.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you?
And that's why I told Sneako. And no, that's average, okay? I'm not saying black people are dumb. I'm not saying that.
I'm just saying that on average, black people deserve to live in poverty. I'm just saying that on average, black people deserve to be in jail because their IQs are lower. This is what's so fucking disingenuous about him. Let me show y'all a video. Noam Chomsky, probably the most prolific intellectual in the last 100 years. This is his take on Charles Murray's IQ. And when he refers to Charles Murray, you have to understand that Murray, the guy who wrote the fucking bell curve, is a guy that Nick is getting all of his information from. Now, let me tell you about Murray. Murray is another slimy motherfucker who does not garner any respect in academia whatsoever from his peers and colleagues. Yes, he got his bachelor's from Harvard. Yes, he got his PhD from MIT. But after his education, he went on to work for right-wing think tanks and Republican legislators who funded his research based on his hypothesis that white people are smarter than black people. So we also have to take into consideration his biases. But here's Chomsky.
First of all, I want to say just very quickly that last night I saw this Time magazine with the front cover regarding that IQ book that you had mentioned, and I was just appalled by it.
No,
because I thought if I was a black man in this country.
She's talking about a New York Times article that referenced the bell curve.
Appalled by it.
No,
because I thought if I was a black man in this country, I would not know what to do with myself.
How about if you're a black woman?
O.J. Simpson.
How about a black woman? Did you read the article?
Or a black woman.
The article claims that one of the things it discusses is the idea that black women don't nurture their children. And that's because they came from Africa where the climate was such and such. This is stuff that's right out of the Nazis.
It's just, I was thinking, how would I feel? You know what? I don't know what to do. It's just rage. Maybe I would wake up every day. Maybe I'd be despondent. Maybe I try to relate to other people as human beings. But inside there would be a burning fire.
See, but I think I agree with that emotional reaction. But if you think about it, the right way to respond is to ask, what are they doing it for? And they're doing it for a very simple reason. Like I said last night, 40% of the kids in New York, most of them are black and Hispanic, are living below the poverty line. That means they're destroyed. Okay. Well, you can't, and that's the result of very definite social policies which are supported by the New York Times. Okay. There are certain social policies which are driving people down to destruction. Well, you can't say that plainly. So you need some cover. Well, what's the cover? Okay, bad genes. Who knows? Maybe. But once you understand that, then you know how to deal with it. Well, it's not that their audience wants to hear that. It's that, some of it does. It's that's the proper ideology. Just as it was proper for the Nazis at some point to say Jews are a virus that's destroying our society, it is proper for the New York Times to run articles taking seriously the idea that black mothers don't nurture their children. And take me, Ashkenazic Jews, we're supposed to be at the top. We have small families because that's what we're like. That's why my mother came from a family with 11 kids, because Ashkenazic Jews have small families. Of course, she was an East European, living in a peasant society. Maybe that had something to do with it. No, that's not what social science tells you. Okay, well, that's, these things are such transparent ideological weapons that you shouldn't even bother arguing about them. We should just understand them transparently for what they are. In a real commissar culture, which is dedicated to trying to obscure the most elementary truths, and therefore is able to do things like this on the front cover of the New York Times. Well, that's the world we're living in. And, you can understand the emotional reaction, and it's easily understandable, but it's not the right one. Because what's going on is very transparent. This doesn't have anything to do with evil and God. This has to do with rich, powerful people trying to justify the fact that they are pursuing social policies which are forcing children to die.
That's it.
That's what it has to do with.
Noam fucking Chomsky, ladies and gentlemen. Also tenured professor out of MIT.
I'm saying that when you average it out,
you're kind of saying that.
I'm not. I'm saying on average. Well, I'm saying that.
Oh shit, is this Destiny getting on the call?
I think that actually it's a fact of nature, which is kind of sad in a way. I think human inequality is sort of
What the fuck does intelligence have to do with nature?
example. And TikTok is like the worst. It's like the worst window to human inequality there is, because you could scroll through TikTok and see the most beautiful person ever, rich and objectively beautiful, and they're getting all this fame and all these likes, and then you scroll up and then you see like a deformed person who's like, they have roaches on their wall and they're like, you know, and it's like, that's actually kind of a tragic and sad thing. And anyway, so I think human inequality as a whole is unfortunate, but here's why it matters. When you look at all of the disparities in the United States as an example, you look at income inequality between the races, wealth inequality between the races, and all these other...
He's doing exactly what Chomsky just said. He's doing it. Y'all, they are so transparent.
Inequalities. People will say, well, if we're all starting from the same place but ending up in a different place, what happened in the middle? Racism probably, or something. If whites...
That's the point, Nick. We don't all start off at the same point. An Ecuadorian migrant child whose family fled from Latin America to the ghettos of East Los Angeles due to the growth of gang violence does not start off on the same playing field as a white kid who grew up in the suburbs with a middle-class family in a two-parent household and had decent access to education. Those two kids are not starting off at the same place.
And blacks and Asians and Hispanics are all the same, and they all start out from the same, starting point, but they all end up wildly unequal. Well, something must happen along the way. Discrimination, racist policies, etc. Well, if people are not starting from the same place, then that would explain how a system which may even have affirmative action or maybe...
When you say they're not starting from the same place, Nick, say genetics. Say it's genetics. You don't think they're starting from the same place genetically, that they're genetically inferior.
The opposite of racist would still be producing unequal results. We have to understand this if we want to create policies where the country can be coherent and harmonious and where everybody is treated fairly. That's my belief. If we want to understand the world, can't understand without understanding the reality of race and what that means.
Got it.
So do you think there's a superior race?
No, I don't. I don't think there's superior people.
Question.
I think that people are unequal.
Well, hold on, but he thinks some people intrinsically have higher IQ than other people, to be honest. So he would say that on average, all else equal, a white person will be smarter than a black person.
Yes.
Yes. I need to hear Nick say it because he believes that. Just so we're all.
When the data does not bear that out, the data actually says that when you control for environmental factors, which is to say, if you have a black kid and a white kid and they both live in dual parent households where both families equally value education and they both have the same access to education and healthcare and mental health support and job opportunities, that it's actually the other way around, where we see a slightly higher IQ from black people than we do white people. So what does that mean? Does that mean black people are actually inherently smarter than white people? Or does that mean that IQ really doesn't tell us much about genetic variance? I don't know. If you ask epidemiologists and people who actually study genetics, they'll say that when you control for those environmental factors, all of a sudden, there is no real difference. That significant difference, if you would like to call it that, automatically evaporates into thin air, which directly conflicts with Nick's argument.
Jidion, Destiny.
Hi, what's
up,
buddy?
Destiny?
I love stealing your content on stream. How's it going?
We're just letting you know, on behalf of the black delegation, we've elected Destiny to speak on this matter.
Yeah, thanks, Okay, well, before we...
Don't do any liberal racism, though. You got this.
I'm a huge liberal racist, okay? But I'm racist towards all people, so we're good. Okay, just before we jump into this, okay? I just... Be clear about who you're talking to and what the goal of the conversation is, okay? Nick has a political movement, a political ideology. His goal is not to sell you truth or to sell you a critical thought process. His goal is to sell you his political ideology.
Destiny is echoing exactly what Chomsky just said.
So if he comes across some idea that's contrary to what he believes, or some thought or fact that is contrary to his belief system, he's not going to tell you that, and he's not going to incorporate it into his world. He's only going to give you the pieces of information that he uses to sell his ideology. I think sometimes we're so hungry to talk to people that disagree with us, we think that everybody has valid things to say. Everybody's got valid points to consider, but you have to keep in mind what they're selling you at the end of the day. If I was to have a conversation with Nick about the value of, like, what do you think about, like, the soft sciences? What do you think about, like, psychologists and political scientists, Nick, in general?
Me?
Yeah.
I think there's some validity to that, but I don't put a lot of stock in empiricism.
Sure, so he doesn't put a lot of stock in those things, okay? The bell curve was written by a psychologist and a political scientist. These aren't genetics researchers. These aren't intelligence researchers. These aren't people that did huge dives into meta. It absolutely is true. Charles Murray is a political scientist, and Richard Bernstein is a psychologist. That's fine, we're not talking about, but I'm just saying that the book, The Bell Curve, if that book was about any other topic, you would dismiss it so quickly because of the scientific disciplines that those authors come from, you wouldn't even consider it for a second. But because it absolutely is true, and you know it. But because you just told me that you didn't put much stock in those disciplines. But you're willing to cite.
I didn't put stock in empiricism. I said I don't put as much stock in empiricism as you do, because you believe that everything is attributable to empirical knowledge, and everything should be derived from studies. I don't believe that all truth is derived from studies. I think we could derive truth from experience, and I think we could derive truth from logic, and we could recognize patterns. I don't think that we necessarily need to go and this is what you and Vosh and Hunter Avallone do, is study, show me a source, show me a study. And I think that studies can aid us.
The social sciences essentially document experiences, patterns, and logic. Right? I couldn't come up with a better way to define what scientists do.
Understanding, but I don't think that's the end-all be-all of knowledge. That's what I'm saying. And you're wrong about...
Yeah, but you lean on it selectively to support your entire worldview. I mean, it's crazy how you can, like, cherry pick one source from a guy who wrote a book over 27 years ago referring to a test that most scientists don't even take seriously anymore.
If I thought that race and IQ was a wrong argument, I wouldn't push it. I wish it was wrong.
No,
I've had my entire life destroyed because I say these things. You think I'm saying these things because it's like doing me a
You had your entire life destroyed because you were fucking up other people's money.
Favor? I'm banned from airlines and banks. I'm under investigation by the FBI, subpoenaed by Congress, in part because I say these kinds of things. So no, I go where the truth leads me. I'm a critical person. They didn't have written language and they didn't have the wheel, and like why that is consistent with everybody evolving exactly the same way and everyone being exactly the same, you know, I would probably be an egalitarian like you. But
no, it's not. It's just the idea is that, like,
Nick, you're gonna have to convert to egalitarianism because you're wrong. I wonder if Destiny is going to catch that.
You know, I would probably be an egalitarian like you, but
no, it's not. It's not. It's just the idea is that, like, if there's differences between large groups of people throughout all of human history, the default position is to not know. You're the one that's asserting the positive claim of, oh, well, it must be because of biology, but we don't know that. Nobody knows that. There are different, like, indicators that, like, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, but to pretend that we have one grand narrative that can explain the differences between all the groups in all of human history, you're not going to find any academic discipline that's going to come together and agree on that. These are all hotly contested topics. That's all I'm saying. And also, when you say, I notice that people like you, sorry, and I'll shut the fuck up. People like you will always say things like, oh, like, you just want to see study. But I'm a man of truth and experience and logic, and I recognize patterns. Bro, a pattern for a human is you have, like, 2 bad experiences with somebody, you write them off completely. That's not going to get you towards truth with a capital T. That's just going to tell us your subjective frame of reference, right? Like, you might eat, like, 2, rotten pieces of fish and tell everybody that fish is the worst food in the world. That's no more truthful than viewing a study on something, or it's even less truthful, right? I don't like
that metaphor.
I don't like this hand waving of, like, all of the empirical data or all of the studies we can do to just say, like, oh, well, I have my own experience, because you can go down so many stupid roads with that. Like, obviously everybody's seen somebody do it.
Nick, who do you think is going to win the race war?
That's how a lot of people end up in oh god,
blacks or whites?
Well, unfortunately,
depends on who the Jews side with.
Well, there's some truth in that, but unfortunately for us, by 2100, the world is going to be full of Africans. I mean, by 2100, it's going to be 10 billion people, and 5 billion of them are going to be black Africans. So I don't think, and frankly, I don't think any of us are going to win in that scenario, because the biggest content is going to be sub-Saharan Africa, And it's going to be like World War Z. They're just going to, you know, that scene in World War Z when the zombies are climbing on top of each other to get into Jerusalem?
So he's basically comparing black people to zombies. That's good to know.
That's what it's going to be like in America and Europe with this population explosion happening there.
So there's going to be a bunch of African people acting like ants climbing up over each other.
He didn't say ants, he said zombies.
Yeah, trying to get into Western countries.
Yo, Destiny, who are you fighting for, blacks or whites?
Western countries who have conveniently destroyed those African countries through colonialism and imperialism. Yeah. Wonder why they leave.
To fight for a fucking race, dog. That's cringe as fuck.
He's gonna be off to the side streaming it in the corner while there's a war.
Bro, Destiny, we're going to...
Fucking race.
Countries.
Yo, Destiny, who are you fighting for, blacks or whites?
Dude, I'm not gonna fight for a fucking race, dog. That's cringe as fuck.
He's gonna be off to the side streaming it in the corner while there's a war.
Bro, Destiny, we're going to draft you in to the black side, bro. You can be with us.
As long as I get an N-word pass, we're good. Okay,
Oh, Jesus Christ.
No, there's not even the idea even of race wars falling on those exact lines. I thought there was a really funny question earlier. I don't know if Jidion or Sneako asked it. When you asked Nick, what kind of a woman are you looking for? Are you looking for like a 50% Italian, 25%?
That was
me, bro.
Whatever.
You can't recognize who it asked.
2/3. I had a 2 out of 3 chance. I had a 2
Let me
out
get
of
my
3 chance.
credit.
I had a 2 out of 3 chance. Okay, you did it. Okay, yeah. Abbott asked a question earlier. Yeah, like what do you even look for? What does it even mean to be black in the United States, right? You've got like African Americans, people that immigrate from fucking Kenya or Nigeria. They don't consider themselves black in the same way that like descendants of slaves are black. Nick doesn't consider himself white the same way that like somebody that's ethnically Nick doesn't consider himself white the same way that like somebody that's ethnically fucking Russian or German or Scandinavian considers themselves white. Like these are like super subjective concepts.
You just obfuscate. All you do is obfuscate. We know what black people are, bro. We know we can look at people.
That's not true, bro. Look at a picture of Obama when he visits Africa.
He's black.
Dude, you can clearly see.
There's different white people.
Yeah.
There's different Asian people.
You can clearly see a difference.
I've been mistaken for black. I've been mistaken for white. I've been identified as mixed. So it's not always easy to identify someone because race and ethnicity is complicated. But if you let Nick tell it, it's not. I think this is a good stopping point. Again, my interest in uploading a part 2 will be dependent on how much y'all like part 1. So if you like part 1, please comment, like, and or subscribe, and I will see y'all next time.